Hi, I'm F. Dean Gifford, and this is the Ask YWNH show. I welcome you to episode number 5. I typically touch on one of 3 main topics that align with our e-newsletter that can be found at yourwellnessandhealth.com. I sincerely hope you're having a great evening or day, depending on where you're located. I am located on the island of Martha's Vineyard. I call the show the Ask YWNH show, but the goal of each show in this series is to inspire healthy living. That is the primary mission of our newsletter, and I hope you will stop by and join us there and subscribe at Your Wellness and Health to learn more about how we will support the concept of healthier living. The idea is for us to search and research the web and find the wellness and health stories so you don't have to. Plus, we throw in a little bit about networks in your life just to change it up. Before I get into the main topic, I'd like to introduce myself. After 25 years as a human resource executive and specifically in employee health plan management, I decided to bring my unique experience to individuals and small business owners who don't have a health plan manager or who's not an insurance broker. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a fitness trainer. I'm not a marketing guru. I'm just a guy who wants to help people by sharing what I know on things that the problems that I can solve in their life. I know these problems are faced by millions of people from my experience in human resources. And as it turns out, that requires me to write a blog and even do some live streaming, which I'm still very new at and trying to get all the technology mastered. As I said, I'm going to talk a little bit here, and then depending on the guests who join the show, I can open it up a seat and we can have comments and thoughts on that topic. The top story this week in Your Wellness is my fitness app says I should drink 5 cups a day. That was a surprise to me. It sounds so simple. I don't really understand why anybody would need an app to remind them to drink water daily. But unfortunately, when something becomes very oversimplified, it is often overlooked by most people. To illustrate that point, consider this. Here's a little story that I heard that you may have heard in science or history class. It's the historical account of Galileo and his life. He is remembered primarily as a scientist and or astronomer, among his many other intellectual talents. He was an engineer, and he improved the telescope, during his many observations of the solar system and the universe during his life. Most notably, he was a supporter of the Copernican model of the solar system. This is where the Earth revolves around the sun, contrary to the ideas that all things revolve around the Earth as the center of the universe. Now, as the story traditionally goes, this put him in conflict with the political powers of his day, the Catholic Church. Therefore, Galileo was an enemy of the church and was branded a heretic. Now, Galileo stood in defiance against the tyranny of the church by declaring the truth as he saw it. This led to his trial and for heresy, a conviction, and they forced him to recant his views and his eventual placement under arrest for the rest of his life, where he eventually went blind. The story is commonly shared over and over because, for the most part, it's historically true. And because, as told, it makes a clear and simplistic narrative accepted by most. Galileo is clearly the hero of the story. He understands the truth because he has the advanced ability to understand this complicated science. His only problem was he shared the truth with all who would listen. Now, every good story has a villain. In this case, it's the Catholic Church, led by its all-powerful popes. These are the leaders of the evil empire of the story who want to suppress any independent thinking ideas that are in conflict with the official thinking of the day or the church. They are clearly stuck in their conservative, dogmatic, these erroneous views, and therefore are good examples of leaders that should not be trusted. It's a simple story, as I said, shared over and over until we all think we know all we need to know. The fact is, we could be missing the most important parts to be understood from the story and not even know it. Just like I was when I just followed my fitness app's recommendation. Do you, like me, oversimplify your understanding of the importance of something as simple as daily hydration, drinking enough water, and your health? Probably. So let's look at some definitions to start this off. Hydration. In medical terms, it's an act or process of combining or treating with water. It's a quality or state of being hydrated, a condition of having adequate fluid in the body tissues. Now, dehydration, in medical terms, is a state or condition where there is a deficit of total body water. Now, just for the sake of the main topic being oversimplification, what is oversimplification? It's to describe something in a way that does not include all the facts and details that causes misunderstanding. So let's dig a little deeper into the story. So, why is hydration considered an important process to achieve good health? As a matter of fact, I consider it part of the core 4 in my WellCare plan strategies, and therefore it is a key part of anybody's wellness plan. First and foremost, the simple story we all know is the human body is mostly water. Therefore, we need to drink water, and we all know if we don't drink water, we could die. But how much you are supposed to drink in detail is more important than the average number. So let's look and see if we can find out a little bit more. Well, after some research based on a large-scale study I read, including both men and women, the average adult is about 65% water by weight. I didn't know that. I knew it was a lot. I don't know if you knew how much it was. The fact is, the amount can vary by age, gender, exercise habits, where you live. To illustrate this point, consider that a newborn starts out at 73% water on average. Didn't know that. I'm not sure you knew this fact, and I thought it was surprising to me. But water accounts for about 1/2 to 2/3 of the average person's weight. Fat tissue has a larger percentage of water than lean tissue, and women tend to have more fat, so the percentage of body weight that is water in average is lower, typically 52 to 55%. Let me say that again. Fat tissue is a lower percentage of water than lean tissue, and women tend to have more fat on their body, so the percentage of their body weight that is water on average is lower, 52 to 55%, and the average man is about 60%, according to per Merck manual page. This page also confirms an element in the study that I read, where they found that obese individuals were found to be only 45% water by weight. In general, water in your body helps your body what? It helps you regulate your body temperature. It performs as a solvent to transport nutrients throughout your body. It works to lubricate and cushion your joints. It protects your spinal cord and other sensitive tissues in your body. And it helps get rid of waste through urination, perspiration, and bowel waste. Great. Water is important to your health. I knew that. You knew that. But it's not as simple as drinking more water. First of all, yes, water is added to your body by drinking. It is also added by eating foods rich in water, such as plants, raw meat. I don't recommend that. I don't do that. And I wouldn't do it unless you knew what the risks were. And of course, fish. Did you know there are 3 parts to hydration? Intake, output, and retention. Before you climb into the drink more water wagon or the intake wagon, as I did, I suggest that you also look and find out how important it is to understand the hydration equation. As I said, intake, retention, and output. So you also need to know about retention and water loss, not just how much you intake. Water loss being the output. The only way to maintain a proper level of water in your system is to understand how much you are losing and what you can do to retain it longer. With a full understanding of your hydration system, you can then fine-tune the intake and output and retention levels for optimal health. So here's some facts to study. The amount of water that is retained in the body is impacted by several factors. Your age, because the older you are, the higher the relative bone mass is, and the lower the body water content will be. It also is important that you know your current health status, because this changes the level vary depending on your health. For example, do you have a fever? Were you vomiting? The more you release toxins, the more water is going to go with you. And of course, there's that hormones regulate the water levels. So to learn more about them, you're going to learn more about maintaining your body's hydration balance. Excuse me. Here's what you should know about water loss, sometimes referred to as dehydration. Once you are thirsty, it is usually a sign that you're already dehydrated or below the optimal level of water. A state of hydration creates a disruption of the body's normal metabolic process, and of course, extreme dehydration is life-threatening. As I said, if your health goal is to maintain optimal health, then you need to know how to manage your hydration or dehydration level closely. The key is to balance the water loss and the water intake. Understanding your current state of disease, as I said, or illness, and the level of physical activity and hormone function also are factors in your WellCare plan. Since the core 4 includes eating well, that could affect how much plant-based water you're getting, or exercise, that can affect how much water loss you have through sweating. So those 2 parts of the core 4, if you're doing all of them, they're all going to change as you work through your WellCare plan. Now, I just learned that you can handle about a 3 to 4% decrease in your total body water. So let me give you an example so we can all understand it. If your total body weight is 100 pounds, we'll just keep the number simple, assuming a 65% average water level, that would mean that 64 pounds of your body is made up of water. Okay. And then I went, oh God, how many ounces are there in a pound of water anyway? Oh yeah, 16 ounces equals 1 pound. So basically, if you weigh 100 pounds, you are about 1,040 ounces of water, and therefore you can handle a reduction of about 32 to 42 ounces of water before you need hydration intake of about 5 8-ounce glasses of water. That made me ask another question. How much water is lost daily just like normally? Nothing else going on. The primary way that a body loses water is through excretion, just urine. It appears that we lose between a pint, 16 ounces, or about a pound. But this can also go up to about several gallons a day. In addition, we normally lose a small amount of water by way of evaporation or sweat daily. Now, unless we increase this under high temperatures and or vigorous exercise in the course, or of course a severe illness, we change the equation. The body loses water primarily, as I said, from excretion of urine, from the kidneys. And depending on the body's needs, the kidneys may excrete less than a pint or up to several gallons of urine a day. About a pint and a half, a little less than a liter, of water are lost daily when water is evaporated from the skin and when we breathe through our lungs. Now, profuse sweating, as it's called, may caused by vigorous exercise, hot weather, or a high body temperature, can dramatically increase the amount of water lost through evaporation. Normally, little water is lost from the digestive tract. However, prolonged vomiting, severe diarrhea, those sort of things, boy, you can lose a gallon of water really quick. Simply put, dehydration occurs when the water loss exceeds water intake. Simple, simple. Usually due to exercise and or disease. So finally, one last little complexity to be studied and understood within your well care plan is the retention of water and the tracking of both intake and outtake. It is necessary to maintain optimal levels of essential minerals. They are mineral salts, or they're also sometimes called electrolytes. These are key elements of health and are contained and connected heavily to the body's hydration levels. Mineral salts or electrolytes are things like sodium and potassium. They're dissolved in water within your body. Water balance and electrolyte balance are closely linked, and the body works to keep the total amount of water and levels of electrolytes in the blood constant. So, key minerals like sodium and potassium are dissolved in the water and used by your body to keep you and regulate your health. But electrolytes is a discussion for another whole day. So that's all I have for now. Of course, you're probably wondering, do you want to know the rest of the story on Galileo? Well, here's the rest of the story. In addition to the one traditionally told, Galileo is the underdog oppressed by the establishment who suffers for his beliefs and is only vindicated upon his death. Good stories play an important process in learning, but often oversimplified the facts and circumstances of our life. Skilled storytellers can add small details that have significant effect on the meaning and value one should take away from the real and complete story. Even now, you should be asking, why am I telling the Galileo story? What's my agenda or purpose for sharing it today, here and now? Now, let me share with you part of the story on Galileo that's often left out, because it doesn't fit into the agenda of the storyteller, typically. Yes, the story of Galileo is a good story. It's simple, it's uncomplicated. It covers the facts and acceptance that the Earth is not the center of the solar system or the universe. Great, we all know that. And we're told this in history or science class sometime, probably in grade school. But what else has been included in the story, or more importantly, what was left out? As they said, the devil is always in the details. As you review the many versions of the story that are out there, you will find many of them with details added that color your understanding and meaning, and one can take away from the story, but here's just a few. Galileo was wrongfully punished for speaking the truth about the universe. His punisher was evil, tyrannical, ignorant, all-powerful establishment leader. The church was unwilling to even listen and stuck in its conservative dogmatic belief based solely on an unproven document, the Bible. Galileo went blind because he was incarcerated. And finally, I love this one. Galileo went blind observing the sun with a telescope. Just get this idea, he was blind in one eye. What I find interesting is what was left out in the telling of the story typically. So, for example, Galileo was not in prison because of his views on the universe. By reviewing the details left out, you learn he was first given the opportunity to defend his views, supporting the Copernican model with the church leaders. And at this time, he was just simply asked, please stop from sharing his views to the public. No punishment was applied, and Galileo agreed willingly to this request. However, he later began to continue his teaching under the label that it was just a purely mathematical concept he was teaching. He believed that way he was not defying the church. This reminds me of a president we once had under oath saying, it all depends on the meaning of is. The word is. He played around with the words, clearly. As I said before, the devil is always in the details. In Galileo's story, he could not stop sharing his views of the universe. This led Galileo to later meet again with yet another pope, who in fact was actually recorded as an admirer of his work. The two have documented that they met several times to discuss the controversial scientific issue of the day. This kind of reminds me of our current day with global warming debate and how the Pope agreed to let Galileo publish a book on the subject if he would cover both sides of the issue and would be neutral in opinion. Well, he wrote it. The work is called Dialogue. Later was updated and the title was Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems. Unfortunately for Galileo, the book was clearly not neutral and somewhat unflattering of the Pope, to say the least. The book told the story of three men, I won't take you through those details, who discussed the topic through a dialogue. All you need to know is the Pope's character was called Simplicio. Well, even I can tell that Galileo viewed the Pope as simple-minded. This and his other clear violations of their agreement with the church led him to be put in house arrest for the rest of his life, just to get him to stop spreading his views. That sounds a whole lot better than in prison for life. And it also, once you realize that he was 70 years old at the time, and in fact, he did read his own renunciation. So he was not blind from observing the sun many years earlier. By the way, he didn't go blind before his death. He did go blind before his death, at age 77. So he really wasn't in jail house arrest for very long. Galileo went blind most likely from glaucoma or cataracts, both of which are common in old age. Once you know the whole story, or at least more of the story, you can move past our desire to jump to conclusions and look for the conflicts between good and evil and right versus wrong. Life is not so simple and easily explained, even by scientists. So don't jump to every easy to understand study about food, your health, the environment. Take the time to learn at least some of the details. And when you do read a story, consider what agenda of the author is making the story before you decide to either dismiss it as quackery or gospel. After all, even Galileo was wrong about the cause of tides. But of course, nobody's perfect. Okay, that's the end of it. See you next week. Hope you join me then.